Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds have made the deal a deal with the devil, and their biggest partnership is with Stephanie Jones. Stephanie Jones, who is the owner and founder of the PR company Jones Works, whose husband, Jason Hones, is a partner and a talent director for WME. They are based over on the East Coast, but Stephanie has a past of being, a pretty just bombastic old school PR person that goes to bat for her clients, isn't afraid to get dirty, has I've heard a pretty foul mouth and not apologetic about it at all. I've read some of the testimony where Justin Baldwin has talked about, some of the things that Stephanie has shared with her. I have seen some of her text messages where she has totally lost it and tried to clear her name. But I have been getting more and more information about this case. And something that I've said from the very beginning is that the case very much feels like twice. 1. Stephanie Jones has a grudge against Melissa Nathan over Scooter Braun. 2. That even though Stephanie and Blake have polar opposite interests, they appear aligned in a shared enemy of Melissa, Nathan, Brian Friedman, and Tag, and trying to take down these people that they think ruin their reputations. But the problem is that history and the truth is the truth, and the best defense for defamation claims and painful interference claims is the truth. And something, Brian Friedman once said in an interview that I thought felt has really been a forefront in this case is that people lie, but papers don't. Right? So, anyone can say anything, but if there's no written proof for it, did it really happen? Evidence doesn't lie. But people do, generally. And for the people involved in this case who know what happened, there's the people on the side that are like, I can't believe the tales that are being spun out of a totally fabricated narrative of situations, scenarios, and predicaments that did not happen. Accusations that simply did not happen. What Blake has accused them of doing on the set, this quote-unquote smear campaign that they claim, includes bots that didn't happen. The idea that they were planting stories when really it was Blake's team that was planting stories. The idea that they were the ones that were being threatening when it was actually Ryan Reynolds running in mock all over the place, and Blake telling everyone these people are dangerous, turning them against them, trying to get them fired, basically trying to ruin their careers even before the film comes out. And in the middle of that, Stephanie Jones was the spokeswoman for Justin Baldoni and had been with him for 5 years. And when you look at some of the ways that, he talks about Stephanie, he did say that she was had this motherly, she's not that much older than him, maybe 10 years, but she had this motherly love for her clients. And that even though she was bombastic and kind of all over the place and not afraid to speak her mind, not a wilting flower, as Blake would say, he said that he always felt like she protected him and had his best interest at heart, at least for a while. At least that's how she presented it to be to his face, he felt like she cared about him. And he even stated that there were conversations where he was trying to where Stephanie was basically telling him to not worry about Blake. And she has this reputation, and she shared stories with him about what Ryan had done to Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. And when they made a movie together, and he had created all this bad PR and made it seem like Dwayne was inexperienced and a horrible person and caused all these problems, even essentially tried to not promote the film with him, made all kinds of threats and, made The Rock's life hell on that set. And so that this was not odd behavior for Ryan or for Blake. And what also looks hard for them is that some of these leaks that are happening that are being done appear to be by Stephanie. And I don't know if it's what she would call to protect their client or if it's just to save their client, plant a story where they put something out into the media and then they're the only ones that can kill it. And Stephanie actually in her statement was accusing Jen Abel of doing that. So Jen was going to go plant stories about baloney so that she could come in and save him and then kill the story essentially so that he would see that she's a great PR person and want to hire him. All right, so that's all silly and nonsense, but that was her. And I felt when I was reading her deposition as it connected to that, it really felt like she was kind of telling on herself. She even talks about how she communicated with Scooter Braun. And what's really weird is that Melissa Nathan's transcripts where Scooter is mentioned, his name is completely blacked out. But when Scooter is named in Stephanie's testimony, it's for the taking. And in her statement, she says it's a text message between yourself and Scooter Braun. A text message string between yourself and Scooter Braun dated August 15th. Do you need a minute to look at it? Yeah. Just let me restart. On August 15th, did you communicate to Scooter Braun that Melissa was planting stories so that she could kill them? Stephanie says, I believe this was after. Yes, it was after I returned from my trip. And yes, I do remember. I remember that. What stories were you referring to? On I believe it was August 9th, Jen on a text with my client Wayfair said that Leslie Sloan or Blake's publicist, I can't recall the exact message, but that Sony as well as Leslie Sloan, Blake's publicist, had heard that I had leaked something to the Daily Mail and had broken up the truce or something to that effect. And then I don't know if Jamie's text came before that or after that, but Jamie Heath texted me something of like, my name in quotes, Stephanie Jones. We just heard that Stephanie Jones. Again, something similar to leaking something to the Daily Mail. Were you trying to get Scooter Braun to fire Melissa Nathan? And see, do you see how she kind of like sidestepped that question and just was like, well, I'm going to tell you about the backstory. I'm going to give you background on that. And she said, are we still on the same O by sending that text? Telling Scooter that Melissa Nathan was planting stories so that she could kill them? Was that the purpose of sending that to Scooter Braun to try to get him to fire her? I was telling Scooter that I believe to be what I believe to be true. It is something that I pondered in the past as well. And I believed that given she is constantly talking to the Daily Mail, and I don't know if she's used to work there or if her sister used to work there, but she had a deep relationship with the Daily Mail and that she would be the one of her go-to places she would always go to. And the fact that they were blaming me for it, because that when I knew I hadn't and I was on family vacation, I thought she was a behind my business insider piece. I felt strongly that she was, which we've since found out was right. And I knew that she was the one who had gone to Daily Mail. Or Jen. But I felt strongly that it was Melissa, because the inquiry we got was about 3 influencers or a number of influencers who were on the carpet who noticed that Blake and Justin didn't pose together on the carpet. And it just so happened to be, which I think I mentioned, that Henry on our social team had sent those. Out of all of the ones that were out there, he had selected a few. And those were the ones that were in the story. And it was my opinion that Henry had forwarded them to Jen, and Jen had shared them with in order to get a bigger retainer from Justin, and justified that she needed to come on board. My assumption was that she took those social media posts to the Daily Mail and had them do a story so she could say, look, you urgently need to hire me now because, there is this Daily Mail. And I think they also knew that Justin wasn't following closely, nor was Jamie, nor was Tara, which articles were saying what. And they tried to portray that this story was negative about Blake and broken the truth. And I had done it, and it wasn't true. It was false. That was a lie. And I couldn't think of any other reason as to why they would want to lie and blame me for something like that, unless they were behind it. And I also knew that they wanted to get hired by Justin. And there were, lots of text chats in this that we later found. And then they said in this text string, you're talking on business and insider piece, and you say 53, you had 53 people text you how badass you are. Do you see that? Yes. Is that the truth? I don't remember. I just got a lot of incoming calls and people were trying. Okay, so that was a lot of words just to basically say that she made this inconvoluted story to try to walk back that she had planted something with the Daily Mail. And by the way, they never ran what? They never ran whatsoever the information that Stephanie gave them. Instead, they changed it and ran what Leslie told them and what Colleen Hoover told them right after James spoke to Leslie. And it was James that gave the information that he got from Stephanie, and he reiterated it to Melissa and said, this is the information we've received. And then he reiterated it to Leslie and said, this is the information we've received. The article was never about those 3 influencer videos by any means. And she never answers the question about why she texted Scooter about what Melissa was doing. And then she changed it from Melissa was doing it to Jen was doing it in the same answer. She talks so much that she contradicts herself. Okay, so here's where things get a little bit interesting. Jen Abel's phone was taken by Stephanie Jones, right? And her excuse was that it was my work phone and I get to have it and I have access to everything in there. Right? And Jen's opinion has always been, no, you don't. You don't own my phone or you don't own the contents of my iCloud or my text messages or my emails. Right? And she testified that after I had clarified to both him and the lawyer who was present that if I were to leave, that they would release the number back to me if I were to go directly to Verizon, which then would make the cell phone inactive. I had mentioned to the lawyer who was there that it was also my personal phone. So, as I said before, it was communicated to me after I said for clarity, it was agreed that my personal cell phone number would be released back to me, which would make the phone inactive. I explained with the lawyer who was present that it was my personal cell phone, that I had private information on there. And Gordon says, yes, right. And looked at the lawyer, and the lawyer said, yes, that's fine. I would render the phone inactive. And so I said, okay. And I gave it over and I was walking out. Gordon says, we need your passcode. And then she never got her phone back. And Stephanie took the guts of that phone. They used that passcode, which was meant to be for transferring the data to a new phone, which she never got. Because Stephanie took the data, downloaded the data, and gave it to Blake. Okay, so Stephanie got mad. She's trying to run around and say she didn't do this. She didn't break the truth. She did nothing wrong. And this injury that she was accused of doing it and got caught is what really sets off this entire event. But the problem that Stephanie is having, and I've talked about this in the past, and she was going to sue me over it, but that in the world of PR, information is valuable. And when you're an agent, a publicist, it's your job to protect the information that your client gives them. The bad stuff. You're not supposed to share the stuff that could hurt them. You're not supposed to weaponize your years of work with someone against them. You're supposed to protect the confidentiality of your clients' businesses, interactions, and you sign agreements with your clients that you will protect their information. She's also bound by employment rules where she's supposed to protect her employees' information and her ex-employees' information. And she's also protected and she's also bound by employment rules that say employers can't retaliate against an exempt employee by weaponizing their communications to humiliate them. She's being sued by Jen Abel for what she did with the phone, and it's connected to privacy laws and promissory fraud and conversion. She's really lucky that Jen didn't go and make a charge with the employment department or the CURD for what happened. With that said, now that it's known publicly that Stephanie has put this out into the public and that she gave up someone's information, specifically a client's, to an adversary willingly and used a sham subpoena, the new rumor, so that she can clear her name and avoid accountability and act as though she didn't do this intentionally. I've heard that this will come out in the evidence. There's alleged proof about this cause we haven't seen everything just yet. Stephanie supposedly told people after the New York Times stuff came out and after it was revealed that she had given over the contents of Jenny's phone and violated the privacy of her former clients, Wayfair. Some of her other clients were possibly upset, right? And she lost business as a result. I mean, she's all but said it in her papers that her company has fallen apart. And so, I've heard that the new rumor is that if things don't go the way they're meant to go, and she can't get out of it, that Stephanie might do what Stephanie does and turn on Blake and Ryan. And she might have already set the stage for what her reason will be. And that excuse will be that Ryan Reynolds threatened me to fire Jason Hodes and terminate him and destroy him as an agent. Get him out of the business, like he would ruin Jason's career if Stephanie didn't hand over the contents of the phone to him. So, there's an accusation now that could be coming up that she only did this because Ryan threatened her husband's job and threatened her business. That's the wild theory that's coming out right now. And so I was asking my source for more information around that. I'm like, do you think Ryan did that? They don't know if it's actually true. I mean, we've already seen Ryan in his text messages threaten Sony and threaten W me. The thing I believe both my wife and I are missing about this mess is your rage. And I hope I've outlined my why that is. I have never had anything but an intense love and respect for Whoop Me and the entire company, but I've also never needed Whoop Me like I do in the moment. I'm always comfortable handling my own butt. This is a case in which I need, along with Blake, a sense of solidarity, a duty, and duty of care. He threatened me, according to the compil, to the filing of the move in the summary job, that if they didn't fire Beldon, they would leave me. So me was like, okay, yeah, we'll fire him. So I'm like, well, maybe she did. Maybe he did threaten her. Maybe he did say. But the problem is that if you remember from the amended COM, the first amended complaint that was now dismissed for Wayfair, the allegation was that Leslie Sloan called up Melissa Nathan on the same day that Jen's phone was taken from by Stephanie and said, "I've seen the texts. You're going to get sued." So there was a belief that Leslie had seen the text and they were going to get sued, and that the only person that would have seen the text that could have showed them was Stephanie Jones. And then the evidence from Blake is that Leslie never told her about it and never gave her that information. And so instead, the information is passed to her from Ashley Avanon, who's a client of WME, that this lady wants to talk to you and that she was crying over the phone and she's never seen such stuff that's so awful and she wants to share it with you. And then Taylor being like, "Oh, can you believe this PR agent just wanted to hand you over this information?" And then she says, like, Ashley saved her. Right? And then there's text messages where Blake is telling Taylor that she shouldn't be seeing this information because she knows these texts are not for her. Which she knows is definitely that they got this information through a sham lawsuit. And then there's also inexplicably no communication between Van Zandt and Jones at all about the subpoena, which means that these conversations were happening offline, maybe face-to-face, maybe on the phone, but there's no emails or documented communication in their discovery as to why Jones just rolled over and gave this all up to them. So my sources say that based on Stephanie's pattern of wanting to get out of things and deflection, and if you've read her deposition, just how she just contradicts herself constantly, they won't be surprised if in the very near future, as things continue to crumble, the information will come out that Stephanie was allegedly, or do you me, or people in this involved in this, were allegedly saying that the reason why this phone got handed over was not because she wanted to give it, but instead because Ryan threatened that if he didn't get it, heads would roll. I'm just waiting for that moment to come, because it's coming. And Ryan knows it, and Blake knows it, and Stephanie knows it. They are on a very thin wire right now, and one of them can cut the wire at any time. And Stephanie has the least to lose here. I mean, certainly she doesn't want her husband to lose his job at WME, but if they fired him over this now, it would be pretty risky. Her husband would almost have a claim for wrongful discharge. But if that's what Ryan did, I wouldn't put it past him. But I also wouldn't put it past Stephanie just freely giving it up to clear her name. But the trouble is when you make a deal with the devil, like Stephanie, the devil will get you. And so if Stephanie or WME or whoever is in this rumor mill spreading this rumor that Ryan threatened to get her husband's job fired and had destroyed Jason's image and destroyed her business, and that's the only reason Stephanie handed over the phone. If that's what's being told to save the image, it'll come out. And then what will Blake and Ryan's answer be to that? Do you think that Ryan made the threat? Or do you think Stephanie or WME or whoever made this accusation is lying and they're just trying to deflect their own responsibility? And if it ever comes out that this was said, how do you think Blake and Ryan will react? Again, all of this is claimed. I don't know if Stephanie said it. I don't know if someone at WME said it. I'm just saying the gossip mill said it, but that Ryan is about to get blamed for it. Threatening Stephanie, threatening Jason, and that's the only reason that we're here today, supposedly. Tell me what your ideas are in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed and click the bell so you never miss a video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, besties.